What would you do if the person who got you killed came crawling back to your door, begging to spend the holidays in your home? What if, this time, you said yes? Ethan is not the kind of man who looks dangerous at first glance. He is quiet, precise, and methodical, the type who keeps his wine organized by vintage and his collectibles cataloged by series number. He built his wealth through discipline, not luck. His villa is unremarkable from the outside, plain walls, a heavy gate, nothing that announces itself. Well, step through that gate and you are standing inside something worth tens of millions. Smart home systems, underfloor heating, a courtyard with a koi pond, a study lined wall to wall with limited edition figurines. Years of patience and passion made physical. And for a while, he shared all of it with a woman named Tara. Tara was beautiful in the way that made you stop looking for what was underneath. She had a talent for softness when she needed something in sharpness when she had already gotten it. Ethan, for all his precision, did not see her clearly until it was far too late. The end of their relationship came the way these things usually do, not with a single blow, but with a door left cracked open, a hotel room, another man, a lie that had already finished being told by the time Ethan found out. He ended it cleanly. No screaming, no theater, just done. He changed the password on the villa gate and started making plans to go home for the New Year holiday. That should have been the whole story. But Ethan carries something most people do not, a memory that does not belong to this version of events, because Ethan has lived this before. In another life, the same life, just played out to his end. He made one fatal mistake. He assumed Tara would accept the breakup and move on. He left for the holiday without a second thought. The moment his car turned the corner, Tara called a locksmith from her village. 200 yuan, and a few minutes later, his gate was open. She walked in with her sister Jana and Jeanette's two boys, Felix and Leo. They did not sneak around or hide their presence. Tara told the neighbors she and Ethan had reconciled and that he had personally invited them to stay. The neighbors had seen her around before. They had no reason to question it, and so they said nothing. Inside, Tara moved through the villa like she owned it, because in her mind she already did. She cleared the storeroom. She opened the finest aged wines. She worked through everything in the refrigerator without hesitation. Her sister Jana stewed 9 of Ethan's prize koi, fish worth a fortune each, in a pot on his stove. But even that was not the worst of it. Felix and Leo got into the study. Every collectible on those shelves, limited editions, out-of-print series, pieces that had taken years to find and over 1 million yuan to accumulate, were destroyed. Not one left intact. When Ethan came home after the holiday full of good cheer, he found them still there, settled in, comfortable, as though they had every right to be. He called the police. He demanded compensation. Tara and her sister rolled on the floor and screamed that they had nothing. And then Tara took it further. In the middle of the night, she live-streamed herself cutting her wrist on his doorstep. She cut too deep. She died right there at his door. Millions of strangers online, seeing only what was on that stream, came to despise Ethan with a fury that had nowhere else to go. They vandalized his company. They pelted him with rotten eggs in the street. He stumbled trying to dodge. A car hit him at full speed. He landed in a flower bed, bones shattered, blood loss, convulsions. He never made it to the hospital. He died hating them, Tara, Jana, every last one of their family. Their greed and stupidity had killed him. And the last thing he felt was rage so pure it had no edges. And then he opened his eyes. He was back, right before the New Year, before any of it had happened, before they broke in, before he went home, before everything fell apart. This time, Ethan is not going to make the same mistake. This time, he is going to let them in. The night after the breakup, Ethan calls his closest friend and they spend hours moving every koi from the courtyard pond to the safety of his friend's villa. 2 million yuan worth of fish, transferred quietly, without ceremony. The pond, now empty, looks bare and purposeless. So Ethan calls a contact at a local aquarium and tells him he is looking for something with more bite, something fierce. The next morning, a large crate arrives. Piranhas, dozens of them, tip straight into the pond. A layer of floating weeds is spread across the surface to keep things discreet. Beneath it, invisible and absolutely vicious, Ethan's new tenants wait. The alligator snapping turtles go into the large water tanks in the back courtyard. His contact explains they can go an entire winter without food and still be alive come spring. Ethan nods and asks about reptiles, something to deter intruders, something terrifying. A corn snake arrives that afternoon, non-venomous, but enormous. The kind of creature that stops thought before reason can catch up. A black tarantula follows, harmless, nightmare-inducing. With the wildlife arranged, Ethan turns his attention to the rest of the villa. A professional moving company arrives and carefully packs every collectible figure from his study. Every luxury item, every antique vase, everything of real value, transported to his other property. An empty house will look suspicious, so he fills the space deliberately. Toxic potted plants range through every room with care. Expired toiletries replacing every product in the bathroom. The premium wine rack restocked with convincing counterfeit bottles of every label imaginable. The freezer filled with rotten seafood so far past its use-by date that even the smell tells the story. They love seafood, Ethan thinks. Help yourselves. Before he leaves, a technician installs over a dozen concealed cameras throughout the property. Every angle, every room, every shadow. He wants to see everything that happens in that house, and he wants every second of it on record for the police. On the way out, he fixes a custom-engraved metal warning plate to the front gate. Dangerous animals on premises. Do not enter. Proceed at your own risk. With that sign in place, whatever happens to them is entirely on them. He gave fair warning. He can prove it. Luggage in hand, unhurried, Ethan wheels himself onto the high-speed train and takes his seat. The moment the train pulls away from the city, he opens the camera feeds on his phone. For a while, everything is still and quiet. A thought crosses his mind. What if being reborn has changed things? What if Tara, somehow, does not come? Would all of this have been for nothing? He turns it over in his head. If Tara has genuinely changed, if she chooses not to break in, then maybe he does not need revenge at all. He could start fresh, let the animals be rehomed, let the villa breathe. He even starts thinking about what to do with the tarantula, the corn snake, the pond full of piranhas. He cannot starve them. He cannot leave them to frighten innocent people. But after lunch, when he checks the feeds again, that thought dissolves completely. Tara has not changed, not even slightly. She arrives with a locksmith from her village, 200 yuan. The gate pops open without resistance. She steps inside, looks around at the spotless interior, and her face lights up with pure delight. She hands the locksmith another 500 yuan to replace the lock, swapping Ethan's high-end fingerprint system for a cheap padlock. She pries the warning sign off the gate with a knife and tosses it into the drainage ditch. Without a second glance, and the camera under the eave captures every single frame in crisp, clear detail. Once the locksmith is gone, Tara heads straight to the storeroom. The wine rack is full. The freezer is packed. She throws her head back and laughs out loud. All this food, she says to no one. My sister and the boys are going to eat like kings. She switches on the underfloor heating, sinks into Ethan's sofa, and watches his television for 2 hours. Then she leaves to collect the rest of her crew. On the train, Ethan closes the camera feed and steps off at his home station. His brother is waiting with a down jacket, worried he has not dressed warmly enough. That warmth stays with Ethan all the way home. He lies on his childhood bed and reopens the feeds, and by now Tara has returned, with her sister Jana and the 2 boys, Felix and Leo, settled in and making themselves comfortable in every corner of his home. The moment Jana walks through the door, she starts gushing about how incredible the place is. Tara beams. Of course he is loaded, she says. He is furious with me right now. But if I just stay put and refuse to leave, eventually he will come around. Jana doesn't see a single thing wrong with this reasoning. In fact, she offers something worse. When he comes back, get him into bed, get pregnant. Someone else's will do, too. Once there is a child, you are family, Jana continues. And then this whole villa is as good as yours. Tara nods with approval. You are always the smart one, sis. And then, with no one else around, Jana leans in and shares a secret of her own. Her ex-husband, Kyle, has always believed the twin boys are his, even after the divorce. He sends 20,000 yuan a month in child support. But Felix and Leo are not Kyle's. They belong to an ex-boyfriend, a street thug named Zach, who Jana had been seeing at the time. Twins run in Zach's family. She had used that fact to bury the evidence and walk away with 5 million. In the divorce settlement, Ethan downloads the footage immediately and asks the contact to track down who Kyle actually is. He intends to send the recording, consider it a good deed. No man should spend years being played for a fool. While the two sisters are still deep in conversation, Felix wanders into the back courtyard. He spots the large water tank and, with the confidence of a child who has never been seriously hurt, reaches his hand straight in. Ethan's heart leaps. Alligator snapping turtles are ferocious by nature, and this city has no real cold season. These animals are fully awake. But Felix is lucky. The turtle has only just arrived and has not yet settled in. Remarkably, it does not bite, at first. Felix stares at the hulking creature, gets excited, and reaches in again and again, prodding it with the fearlessness only children and fools possess. And then he pushes his luck one time too many. My hand. Mom, help me. The camera is too far to capture the detail clearly, but Ethan can see the water turning red. Jana takes one look and faints on the spot. Tara has more nerve. She reaches into the tank herself, trying to pry the turtle loose, and the creature rakes its claws across her hands, opening deep bloody gashes. Even lifted partially out of the water, the turtle will not release Felix. Frightened, it clamps down harder. Felix is sobbing. Annie, it hurts so much. Please help me. Tara dares not call the police, dares not call an ambulance. Terrified of being exposed as a trespasser, she runs to the kitchen for a knife, intending to cut the turtle's head off. That is the exact moment Ethan's name lights up on her screen. He has been watching the whole time, and he calls, perfectly timed, to buy a few more seconds of chaos. Tara sees his name and abandons the still crying Felix to answer, forcing her voice into something resembling calm. Ethan, what made you think to call? He lies smoothly. My neighbor spotted someone lurking around my place. I am warning you, do not give me a reason to come after you. Tara goes cold. She stammers that the neighbor must be mistaken and hangs up quickly. In her mind, the calculus shifts immediately if the neighbor has already seen them. They need to stay inside and stop drawing attention. By the time she rushes back to the courtyard, the turtle has finally let go. But as it released, it tore away a chunk of flesh from the back of Felix's hand, bone faintly visible through the torn skin. Tara does not take him to the hospital. She dares not set foot outside. Instead, she digs through the basement until she finds a first aid kit with medications long past their expiry date. She follows a tutorial on her phone and dresses the wound as best she can. What she does not know is that expired antiseptic does not disinfect, it accelerates infection. The wound is already beginning to rot. In his childhood bedroom, watching the feed, Ethan feels something settle deep in his chest. Satisfaction, clean and complete. Felix in his past life had urinated in corners throughout the house, destroyed everything Ethan had built piece by piece. Watching him meet the turtle feels like a very particular kind of justice. But this is only the beginning. Ethan has so many more gifts waiting for them inside that house. Tara cooks lunch with the enthusiasm of someone spending someone else's money, which is exactly what she is doing. Jumbo South American prawns, French red wine from the rack, frozen steaks, everything that looks expensive and therefore feels like winning. From the sofa, Jana calls out shamelessly for more. Felix and Leo are growing boys. They need proper food. Tara rolls up her sleeves and pours olive oil into the pan like it costs nothing, until Jana catches a smell drifting from the pan and nearly gags. This oil smells off. Tara waves her away. Premium stuff. The flavor is just stronger. When the food hits the table, Jana takes a few bites and her expression darkens with each mouthful. The seafood tastes wrong. The steak has gone black around the edges. Tara, whose sense of taste has never been her sharpest quality, finds nothing wrong with any of it and eats with gusto. Jana pushes the food aside and tips back the counterfeit wine, in large gulps on an empty stomach instead. Felix and Leo, watching Tara eat steadily, follow her lead without hesitation. Together the four of them clear the entire table. About half an hour later, both boys are clutching their stomachs and making desperate runs for the bathroom. Jana, who drank heavily on nothing, is moaning about dizziness, her face flushed an alarming shade of red. Tara is no better. She alternates between dizzy spells and cramps, making trip after trip to the bathroom, barely surviving the night. By the small hours of the morning, Jana bundles the two hollow-faced boys into a taxi and heads for the hospital. Tara is left behind, direct to stand without falling. She spends the entire night on the bathroom floor. In his childhood home, Ethan watches it all with deep amusement. The camera feeds playing out like a very satisfying piece of theater. By evening the next day, Jana slinks back to the villa, dragging the visibly shattered boys behind her. The two sisters waste no time tearing through what is left in the storeroom, and what they find stops them cold. Every bottle of wine, counterfeit, every food item, expired, every label, fake. Tara collapses on the sofa and mutters bitterly that she thought Ethan was supposed to be loaded. Jana agrees the food was long past its use-by date, adds that Ethan is absolutely outrageous, and says if she were not worried about raising suspicion she would confront him directly and demand he pay their medical bills. Tara thinks for a moment and lands on a simpler plan. He always buys luxury goods, she says. Tomorrow, we quietly sell off his designer things. Jana agrees immediately. Whatever they can think of, Ethan has already thought of first. He has been waiting for exactly this moment. All they have to do is walk through his bedroom door. The moment Tara pushes it open, a wave of stench drives her back step by step. Several pairs of socks, deliberately left unwashed, cultivated to maximum potency. The smell is catastrophic, the kind that lives in the back of your throat. Jana clamps her nose and retreats to a safe distance in the hallway. Tara steels herself, covers her nose, and enters anyway, dry heaving with every step. She reaches deep into the wardrobe searching for the luxury goods that are no longer there, and instead, something warm and furry and very much alive brushes across her hand. Tara recoils with a sharp gasp. From the doorway, Felix spots it first. His eyes go wide. Annie, there is a massive spider on your hand. Tara shakes her hand violently, desperate to fling it off. The tarantula, startled by the sudden movement, sinks its fangs into her finger. Then it skitters across her body and vanishes into the darkness of the room. That crawling, furry sensation on her skin is the stuff of nightmares, and Tara stands rooted to the spot, shrieking, "Spider! There is a spider! Do not come near me!" Jana refuses to go anywhere near the room. She hovers in the hallway, craning her neck, pulling Leo back by the collar with the other hand. Felix, rattled by Tara's screaming, joins in the howling. They carry on like this for what feels like an eternity before finally going quiet. Felix catches his breath and announces that he thinks the spider ran away. Tara's legs, which have felt like solid lead, finally agree to move again. She bolts from the room as if the floor is on fire and swears she will never set foot in there again. The camera captures everything, including the large dark patch spreading between her legs as she runs. She has wet herself. After composing herself, Tara calls Ethan. Her tone is carefully casual, the kind of casual that takes real effort. "A friend mentioned you have been keeping pets lately. What kind? Are they venomous?" She wants numbers. She wants a map of the danger. She wants to know if she is safe. Ethan gives her nothing. "None of your business," he says flatly. "Do not call me unless you have a reason to. You are bad luck." He hangs up. Venomous or not? How many? Where they are? Let her lie awake wondering. Tara sees but has nowhere to aim it. Raw fear wins out. She spends 1,000 yuan at the hospital on antivenom injections just to feel safe again. But not knowing how many tarantulas are loose in that house means she now checks every room before entering, every corner, every shadow, every crevice, scanning before she dares step through a doorway. She is a nervous wreck, jumping at nothing, seeing movement in places that are perfectly still. She refuses to go back into the bedroom under any circumstances, and no amount of reassurance from Jana makes any difference. She asks Jana to go in instead. Jana flatly refuses. "Why should I risk my life?" And with that, the matter is dropped entirely. The bedroom becomes off limits. The luxury goods inside it, unreachable. With the storeroom emptied and the bedroom sealed by terror, Jeanette's attention turns to the courtyard pond. She remembers spotting what looked like large fish lurking beneath the floating weeds. "Let us catch them," she proposes. "It is New Year's Eve. Fish for lunch. Then we sneak out for a proper dinner tonight." Tara agrees readily, but immediately they hit a problem. Tara's hands are covered in wounds from the turtle and the spider. She refuses to put them in the water. Jana will not ruin her new dress in the murky pond and will not budge. Felix, happily yanking up garden plants nearby, overhears the debate and volunteers. "I want to catch fish. I will go," and before anyone could stop him, ignoring the barely scab wound on his hand, he jumps straight in. Piranhas do not typically attack larger creatures unprovoked, unless that creature is bleeding. The moment Felix's wounded hand breaks the surface, every piranha in the pond turns. They descend on the injury without mercy. tearing into it with the precision of something that has been waiting. The overwhelming pain causes Felix to slip and plunge fully into the water. "Help! These fish are eating me!" he screams, watching the wow being devoured in front of his own eyes. Jana forgets entirely about her dress. She lunges forward and grabs Felix by the arm, straining with everything she has. But Felix is heavy and one arm is not enough. She looks desperately at Tara. "Get down here and help me pull him out." "I am terrified of those fish," Tara says, and crumbles on the spot, sinking to the ground in a useless heap. Jana summons every last ounce of strength and hauls Felix out alone. By the time he is out of the water, his injured hand is a raw, mangled mess, bone faintly visible through the torn flesh. Jana reaches for her phone to call an ambulance. "No," Tara snaps. "If they come to this address, our whole situation gets exposed." She blocks her, terrified of criminal charges, even as Felix turns pale and silent with shock. Jana thinks fast. She lifts the boy and hurries away from the villa as quickly as she can, putting distance between herself and the neighborhood before hailing a taxi from far enough away that no one can connect them to the address. But they have not made it far at all when Janet's phone rings. It is Tara, sobbing. Something terrible has happened. Leo got into the study. The massive corn snake is coiled around him. He cannot breathe. "I am too scared to go near it," Tara says. "He is going to die." Janet's knees buckle. She nearly collapses on the pavement. Tara, utterly at a loss, finally does the only thing left to do. She calls the police. She calls the ambulance. Every shred of arrogance she carried when she picked that lock has long since evaporated. By the time officers arrive on the scene, Felix's hand is so severely damaged it has to be amputated. He goes straight into surgery. Leo is pulled free from the snake by the officers, badly shaken, rambling in broken fragments. Then the fever spikes. Jana has only fainted, lucky, all things considered. Tara is not so fortunate. The relentless shocks have driven her to the edge of madness. She speaks in wild, incoherent bursts, screaming about spiders and pythons, clawing at the air around her. Something in her has clearly snapped. When the police contact Ethan, he is out in the yard grilling, the smell of charcoal and garlic in the cold air. He remotely pulls the full surveillance footage from the villa and sends it straight to the police. Who is in the wrong is plain to see. After reviewing the footage, the officers no longer require his in-person cooperation. He posted clear warning signs. He had surveillance installed. He kept non-venomous animals on his own private property. Had they not forced entry and ignored every posted notice, none of this would have happened. Not only will Ethan not be compensating them, he will be demanding they compensate him. He retains an attorney. Every negotiation goes through the professional. Leave the precision work to precision people. The next day, his attorney reports that Jana has threatened multiple times to sue Ethan into bankruptcy. But the attorney is calm. In this situation, they are clearly the ones at fault. As homeowner, Ethan has fulfilled every legal duty to warn. A judge will most likely rule entirely in his favor. That puts Ethan's mind at ease. His evidence is solid. He welcomes the lawsuit. He has his attorney relay a message to Jana. Take him to court whenever she pleases. Then Ethan moves first. He blurs the faces in the surveillance footage and posts it online before Jana can, cutting off any chance she has of playing victim for public sympathy. Even with faces blurred, Jana has a small following as an online influencer. A handful of viewers recognize her silhouette alone. Word spreads quickly. Commenters flood her old videos. Didn't she claim to be from a wealthy family? And she is breaking into people's homes? Both sisters are gold diggers. Disgusting. They got exactly what they deserved. Thank goodness he kept those animals. Otherwise, that beautiful property would have been left in ruins. And she has the nerve to demand compensation from the homeowner. The public turns on Jana fast and hard. But Ethan is not finished. While the story is still trending, he posts the second video. Janet's own voice, recorded in Ethan's living room, admitting that the twins are not cows. 8 years, 20,000 yuan a month, a 5 million yuan divorce settlement, all built on a lie. He does not have to go looking for Kyle. Kyle comes to him. That very night, Kyle drives straight to the hospital ward where Felix and Leo are admitted. The view count on the second video breaks 1 million in a single night. The comment section becomes a feeding frenzy. Someone digs up Kyle's full background, owner of a building materials company, quite wealthy, famously proud. He had plastered his social media with photos of the twin boys, constantly boasting that great fathers raise great sons. Every single post is now a punchline. Ethan puts his phone down and changes into a black coat, the kind that says plainly, "Do not try me." He drives to the city hospital. He has not even reached the orthopedic ward when he hears it, Jeanette's piercing wail, cutting through the corridor. The crash of something shattering, Kyle's voice, tight with fury. The hallway is packed, patients and their families craning for a better view. Ethan parts the crowd and finds himself an excellent vantage point. Inside, the room is in ruins. Kyle, who used to strut confidently across Jeanette's social media, now stands red-faced, veins bulging at his neck, gripping him for stand like a weapon. Jeanette is on her knees, hair disheveled, arms locked around Kyle's leg, refusing to let go. Her face is swollen beyond recognition. She has clearly just been struck. On one bed, Felix lies unconscious, fresh from surgery, his right arm ending where his hand used to be. On the other, Leo sobs hysterically, trembling under the blankets. And in the corner, Tara sits hunched, staring blankly at the ceiling, muttering the same word over and over. Spiders, big spiders. Kyle lets out a short, hollow laugh, the kind that comes when fury tips all the way into contempt. He shoves Jeanette away with one kick and reaches into his briefcase. A stack of documents flies across the room and hits Jeanette square in the face. White pages explode into the air and drift slowly down to the floor like snow. The moment I saw that video, I had a paternity test rush through, Kyle says, his voice carrying across the entire floor. They used the hair and toothbrush you left at my place. The results are right there. Those to share not one drop of my blood. I raised another man's sons for 8 years, $20,000 a month. I bought you a house. I bought you a car. Jeanette, you played me for an absolute fool. Jeanette stares at the test results scattered across the floor. All resistance drains out of her at once. She grabs at Kyle's trouser leg, trembling. We were married. Doesn't that count for something? Felix lost his hand. He needs money for treatment. You cannot abandon us. Kyle steps back in disgust, as though she were something contaminated. I came here for 3 things, he says, holding up 3 fingers, eyes cold and merciless. First, that property in your name. I put down the deposit. I paid the mortgage. I have already contacted my attorney to file for an asset freeze. Get out immediately. Second, every cent of child support I have paid over 8 years, including the $5 million settlement from the divorce. I am suing to recover all of it. That is fraud. I do not just want the money back. I want you behind bars. Then he turns and looks coldly at the 2 boys in the hospital beds. The warmth that once filled his eyes is gone entirely. Third, from today, I would not pay a single cent toward those boys' medical bills. I just had the $50,000 pre-deposit refunded at the payment counter. That last point breaks her completely. Jeanette lets out a scream of pure despair that echoes down the hallway. Felix needs another $100,000 or more in follow-up care. If you pull the funds, the hospital will stop treatment. You are sentencing us to death. Kyle gives a cold laugh and straightens his slightly rumpled jacket. Go find their real father, whoever that lowlife is. He turns to leave. Jeanette lunges at him in desperation. His bodyguard shoves her back hard. She crashes into the bedside cabinet. Blood wells immediately from her forehead. And that is when Ethan begins to clap. Slow, deliberate, each clap measured like a verdict being read aloud. The applause freezes the room. Every head turns. Jeanette presses her hand to her bleeding forehead, blood running down her cheek. And the moment she sees Ethan standing in the doorway, the hatred in her eyes becomes almost tangible. Ethan, she screams and lunges forward. You did this. You destroyed my family. I will kill you. She never reaches him. A slight sidestep, and she stumbles past. He trips her, and she goes down. He stands over her, unhurried, his voice perfectly calm. You can eat, whatever you like, but watch what you say, he tells her. You were the one who cheated on your husband. You were the one who led your whole family into my home illegally, driven by sheer greed. How is any of that my fault? Across the room, Kyle catches Ethan's eye. Some of the tension leaves his face, replaced by something more complicated. Gratitude, perhaps. The kind you feel when someone has saved you from a version of your life you did not know you were living. Thanks, man, Kyle says as he pauses. He gives Ethan's shoulder a firm pat. You are no saint either, but I owe you one. Ethan smiles. Do not mention it, Kyle. I was simply protecting what was mine. Kyle gives a short grunt, gathers his people, and leaves without looking back. With her financial lifeline gone, Jeanette's last hope evaporates. She lies face down on the floor, pounding it with both fists, sobbing without restraint. Leo weeps so hard he is nearly convulsing on the bed. Tara keeps clawing at the air in the corner, invisible spiders swarming around her in a world only she can see. The onlookers murmur and point. So that is the gold digger. Serves her right. The kids are not even his. What a rotten thing to do. Did you hear him say he is going to recover the support payments? Now they have nothing and a mountain of debt on top. Ethan does not leave. He walks over to Jeanette and crouches down beside her. Stop crying, he says calmly. Save your strength. He pulls a long document from his coat pocket and holds it in front of her face. My attorney has already calculated everything your family damaged in my home. The wine you drank, the food you consumed, the antique vase, the carpet, and most critically, the collectible figurines. Preliminary valuation, approximately 3,600,000 yuan. Jeanette's head snaps up. Her eyes go wide. 3.6 million. Have you lost your mind? A few cheap plastic figures are worth that much. Cheap plastic figures? Ethan laughs coldly. Limited edition, out of print, priceless on the secondary market. I have had a certified appraisal done. The court will recognize every item on that list. He lets the words hang for a moment, then leans close to her ear and drops his voice to something only she can hear. And given that you clearly have no means to pay, I hear that ex of yours, the real father of these two boys, was just released from prison. What do you think he would do if he found out he had two grown sons, and a well-off ex waiting for him? Jeanette's pupils contract sharply, her whole body trembles. She knows exactly who Zach is. He was her nightmare, a rotten human being through and through. Once he latched onto something, you could not shake him, a leech. She had spent years clawing her way free from him. What are you going to do? Her voice is saturated with fear now, more afraid than she was even facing Kyle. Ethan stands and brushes imaginary dust from his lapel. I just think family ought to be whole, since Kyle wants nothing to do with these boys. Someone has to step up as their father, do they not? You are not human, Jeanette screams after him. You are a monster. Ethan does not acknowledge the words. He turns and walks out of that ward, thick with the smell of antiseptic and despair. Outside, the sunlight is sharp and clean. He takes a slow breath, pulls out his phone, and dials a number a private investigator had tracked down. Zach. He keeps his voice warm and easy. Heard you were looking for an opportunity. I have got something big about your old flame, Jeanette. Two grown sons and a pile of money just waiting for you. A coarse, greedy voice comes through the line, set against the clatter of mahjong tiles in the background. Yeah. Who is this? Doesn't matter who I am. What matters is Jeanette is at the city hospital right now. Orthopedics Ward 3. Wait till long and someone else gets there first. He hangs up and watches the traffic lights blinking in the distance. A cold smile settles on his lips. Jeanette, Tara, you think this is over? This is just the beginning. You like taking what is not yours. You like treating people like fools? Then let me give you a gift. The dog is off the leash. Ethan settles into a seat in the hospital lobby, orders a hot coffee, and drinks it at his leisure. About 20 minutes later, a commotion erupts at the entrance. A man in a loud floral shirt and tight jeans, face thick with the hardness that comes from years of rough living, a dragon tattoo crawling over his shoulder, swaggers and cursing under his breath. Behind him trailed a bleached blonde Sidekix rolling in with that boneless street strut. This is Zach. Ethan pulls his cap down low and watches these three attack dogs make their way to the elevators. Without any hesitation, he has already done them the courtesy, the floor number and room number, delivered personally over the phone. He takes out his phone and connects to the miniature Bluetooth earpiece he had left near Jeanette's ward door. What follows is deeply satisfying. By the sound of it, the ward door is kicked clean off its hinges. Which one of you is Jeanette? Get out here, now. Zach's gravelly roar detonates through the earpiece. Jeanette's terrified scream follows immediately. Zach, how did you find me? Who told you I was here? Shut your mouth, Zach says. He has no patience for questions. Word is you had to of my kids and squeeze 5 million out of that rich ex of yours. Hand it over. I do not have it. The money is being clawed back. Just go. Please, just leave. A sharp crack rings through the earpiece, the unmistakable sound of a slap. Ethan winces on her behalf and takes another slow sip of coffee. I just walked out of prison and my luck has been garbage, and you are telling me you are broke. That gold chain around your neck looks heavy enough. Take it off. The ward erupts. Jeanette's cries. Leo screams. The crash and clatter of things being overturned. That is all I have left. Felix still needs surgery. Surgery for what? Zach sneers. The kid is already missing a hand. He will be useless grown up. Cut your losses. Now this one, a pause, could come with me, earn his keep. Ethan cannot help but laugh quietly to himself. So this is the great love Jeanette had fought so hard to bear children for. In her mind, Kyle was always the fool footing the bill. Zach was her idea of a real man. Well, her real man has come to give her a lesson she will not soon forget. More sounds through the earpiece, dull thuds, Jeanette's muffled groans. And then Tara, lost in her own world until this moment, suddenly registers Zach's brutality. Whether from fear or some raw animal instinct, she screams, "Spiders, huge black spiders. They will bite you to death." She grabs a thermos from the bedside table and hurls it straight at Zach. It misses, but the scalding water drenches him on impact. "What the? Who is this crazy woman?" Zach explodes. "You dare throw that at me, boys. Beat her until she stops." In that moment, the war becomes a genuine hellscape. Jana and Tara, the pair who once carried themselves with such insufferable arrogance, who used to look down on Ethan without a second thought, are now set upon by three men and utterly helpless. Nurses and security arrive at the door, but against a man like Zach, freshly released and immune to shame, no one dares intervene directly. They stand at the threshold and shout that the police have been called. Zach is not remotely concerned. "I am disciplining my own family. This is a domestic matter. What are the police going to do to me?" He is not entirely wrong. For someone like Zach, the detention center is practically a free hotel. As the pleading through the earpiece grows quieter and more desperate, Ethan knows the timing is right. This spectacle has not only shattered Jeanette's last psychological defenses, it has stripped away the final shred of dignity that allows them to keep functioning in this city. He removes the earpiece, drops it in the nearest bin, and walks out of the hospital. Across the street, in a quiet cafe, a man in a tailored suit and gold-rimmed glasses sits by the window, turning through documents with unhurried ease. His name is Preston, celebrated criminal law strategist, top tier and priced accordingly. His signature line, "Pay me enough and I will find fault with the devil's own ledger." "Sorry to keep you waiting, Preston," Ethan says, taking the seat across from him. Preston adjusts his glasses and offers a measured, professional smile. "Mr. Ethan, I have reviewed everything you sent me. It is perfect. This is not merely a civil matter. We have every basis to pursue this as a full criminal case." He slides several documents across the table with the calm efficiency of a man who has done this many times and never lost. Criminal trespass, they picked the lock to gain entry, replaced it, and occupied the property for an extended period. Intent is unmistakable. Grand theft, the luxury goods they sold, the premium wines consumed, the provisions used. The amounts involved qualify as exceptionally large under the criminal code. Minimum sentence starts at 10 years. Malicious destruction of property, the collectible figurines and antique vase, significant value. Evidence of deliberate damage is clear. Preston's fingers tap the table in a slow, rhythmic beat, like a quiet tolling of the bell. As for the child's injury, you posted clear warning signs and installed surveillance. You fulfilled your duty of notice entirely as unlawful intruders. Any injuries sustained on your property, as a result of their own actions, carry zero liability on your part. On the contrary, we can countersue for failure to supervise, which caused distress to your animals and damage to your pond ecosystem. Ethan listens and feels something settle deep in his chest. Not anger, not excitement, something cleaner. The satisfaction of a plan executed precisely, without waste. There is more, Ethan adds. The man upstairs, Zach, is the biological father of those two boys. He just paid a visit to the ward. He took Jeanette's last pieces of jewelry by force and assaulted them both. Preston's eyes light up behind his lenses. Now that is interesting. If we can establish Zach as an accomplice or implicate him in robbery, this fire burns considerably hotter. He draws a thick document from his briefcase and slides a pen across the table. "One signature from you, Mr. Ethan, and this indictment goes directly to the court and the Public Security Bureau. I will file for an asset freeze, every account in their names, every exit route barred. Given the scale of amounts involved, the authorities will move swiftly to impose criminal detention. In other words, Preston says, and allows the ghost of a smile, they will be transferring from a hospital ward to a detention cell. Ethan takes the pen, looks at the sharp tip for a brief moment, and signs without hesitation. I will leave it in your hands, Preston. He stands and shakes the attorney's hand firmly. Money is not a concern. Legal costs are not an issue. I have only one requirement. His expression turns cold, perfectly, quietly cold. I want them to rot in that cell. I want them to understand that some doors are not meant to be opened. Some people are not meant to be crossed. Preston nods, his expression equal parts cold and certain. As you wish, Mr. Ethan. In this arena, I am the hunter. As Ethan steps out of the cafe, he sees several police vehicles pulling up outside the hospital. Lights flashing in the gray afternoon. These officers have not come to rescue Jeanne. They have come to put her in handcuffs. The heart of Zach rages upstairs. The worse Jeanne's situation becomes. And the moment the officers run their IDs and discover the Song sisters are wanted in connection with a massive theft, Ethan cannot hold back a laugh. Jeanne, the moment you think you have grabbed a lifeline, only to find it is a noose, what expression will be on your face? His phone buzzes. A message from the property management office. A large crowd has gathered outside the villa. Relatives of the injured child. A banner demanding justice. Someone is live streaming. Jeanne hasn't given up yet. She is making one final attempt to weaponize public opinion. What she does not know is that in the eyes of the public, she is no longer the pitiful single mother. She is a punchline. Ethan taps back calmly. No matter. Let them make noise. The louder, the better. Because what is coming next, Preston's legal notice and the police warrant, will be the finest gift her livestream audience has ever witnessed. When he drives back to the villa, he can see the crowd from a distance. A wall of people, a dozen shameless camera crews jostling for position, influencers holding up phones already streaming live. In the center of it all, a white banner with black characters. Heartless rich man keeps vicious animals. Injures innocent child. Justice must be served. Beneath it stands Jeanne, head wrapped in thick bandages, bruises still vivid on her face, weeping for the cameras with practiced devastation. Everyone, please stand up for me. That man Ethan kept piranhas and a python in his home just to get back at me. My son is only 8 years old. His hand was severed. He is still unconscious in the hospital, and Ethan will not pay a single cent toward his care. She weeps with the commitment of someone who has done this before. Yes, we used to be together. I admit I made mistakes, but he cannot try to kill my entire family. This is cold-blooded murder. Beside her, Zach has decided to treat this as a business opportunity. Shirtless, tattoos on full display, an iron rod in hand, he hammers against Ethan's gate in steady thunderous blows. Ethan, you coward, get out here. He bellows at the cameras. Pay $10 million today, or I will tear this place apart brick by brick. The livestream comments flood in, self-righteous, uninformed, furious. That poor child, he is innocent. What kind of sick person keeps piranhas? He needs to pay and go to prison. Watching this carnival of chaos from his car, Ethan feels no anger, only amusement. Preston, seated beside him, adjusts his glasses and checks his watch. Right on schedule. Ethan steps out of the car and walks toward the crowd, unhurried, hands in his coat pockets. The moment Jeanne spots him, her rehearsed grief evaporates and genuine fury takes its place. The cameras swing toward him immediately. He faces them without flinching. He speaks clearly, without raising his voice. These individuals broke into my home illegally. I had posted clear warning signs at the gate. I have surveillance footage of every moment they were inside. The child was injured because he was an unlawful trespasser who ignored all posted warnings. I am not responsible for what happened inside my own home to people who had no right to be there. The livestream comments begin to shift, slowly, then all at once. Wait, they broke in. The warning signs are right there on camera. She threw away the sign herself. I can see it in the footage. Is this the same woman from the trespassing video? I recognize her. She is crying for the cameras, but she is the criminal here. Zach, who has been watching his narrative dissolve in real time, decides the only move left is violence. To hell with the law, he erupts and swings the iron rod in Ethan's direction. He is genuinely attempting to attack someone in front of uniformed officers. Freeze! Drop the rod. The officers have anticipated exactly this. The instant Zach moves, 3 tactical officers are on him at once. A sharp crack, and his arm is pinned. Cold handcuffs snap shut. "Get off me," Zach thrashes. But his street fighting skills are nothing against trained restraint technique. The lead officer steps forward. "Zach, you are suspected of assault and robbery from the hospital earlier. Now we can add armed assault on officers and extortion. Take him. I am the father. I am owed compensation. You have no business arresting me." Zach rages as he is loaded into the vehicle. The door shuts and swallows every word. With Zach dealt with, the officers turn toward Jana, who has already crumpled to the ground. "Jana, you are suspected of criminal trespass and grand theft. You are hereby placed under criminal detention." The handcuffs click shut around her wrists. In that moment, she finally understands, not as a thought, but as a physical sensation, the cold metal, the weight of it, the sound. It is over. "No, please do not take me." Jana breaks down completely, looking at Ethan with eyes that have run out of angles. "Ethan, I know I was wrong. I never should have come to your home. Please, say something to the officers. It was all a misunderstanding. If I go to prison, what happens to Felix and Leo?" Watching her like this, Ethan feels nothing, not a ripple. He crouches down and meets her eyes. A misunderstanding. His voice is quiet and completely even. "When you pried open my door, drank my wine, destroyed what I had built, and tried to claim my home as your own, did the word misunderstanding ever cross your mind? As for the children," he leans slightly closer, "do not worry. The state has welfare homes. Given the parents they were born to, a children's welfare home may well be the best place for them." He stands and gives a dismissive wave, as though shooing away something inconsequential. "Take her." Jana is escorted to a police vehicle by 2 officers. Her cries grow fainter with distance, and finally dissolve into the night entirely. The vehicles roar away, taking all the noise and all the chaos with them. Outside the villa, nothing remains but wreckage on the ground and a crowd that has not yet processed what they have just witnessed. The live stream is still running, but the comments have turned completely. Preston adjusts his glasses and glances at his phone. "Mr. Ethan." Public sentiment has reversed entirely. The top trending topic is now a master class in dismantling moral blackmail. Ethan looks at the villa, familiar, but somehow altered. It has been violated, but from now on it will be clean. "Preston, everything from here is yours to handle," he says. "I will not accept any settlement of any kind. I will not accept any letter of apology. I want the maximum sentence." Preston gives a slight bow. "Understood. I will ensure they have ample time behind bars to reflect on their choices and spend the rest of their lives repaying for 1,800,000 yuan. Ethan turns and walks into the yard. The courtyard pond has been drained. The piranhas, who served their purpose admirably, have been taken in by a friend. Standing before that empty pool, he can still picture Felix's face the moment he fell in. The scream, the thrashing, the water turning red. Is it finally over? Almost. He still has one gift left to deliver. To Tara, currently in the psychiatric ward, performing a madness that may no longer be entirely performance. They say every time she closes her eyes, she sees spiders. Every shadow moves, every texture crawls. The psychiatric ward staff know she has not slept more than an hour at a stretch since she was admitted. She refuses to be left alone. She will not sit near windows. She tears the bedsheet searching for things that are not there. The doctors say it is acute stress response, possibly tipping into something longer term. They recommend observation. They recommend time. What they do not know is that the source of her terror has not been removed. It is still out there, in the form of one man who has not finished with her yet. Ethan does not visit Tara in person. He does not need to. He sends her something instead, a package, delivered through the hospital system, marked as personal effects. Inside, a single photograph. The courtyard pond, drained and empty, a handwritten note beneath it. They are all gone now. The piranhas, the snake, the turtles. Only the spider is unaccounted for. Sleep well. The nurse on duty later reports that Tara screamed for 45 minutes straight upon opening it. Ethan hears this and considers the matter settled. But there is still the legal architecture to complete. Preston files the indictment. The asset freeze goes through within 48 hours. Every account connected to Jana and Tara is locked. Every exit route closed. The Public Security Bureau, presented with surveillance footage, witness testimony, medical records, and a damage assessment running to nearly 5 million yuan, moves with unusual speed. Criminal detention is imposed. The sisters are formally transferred from the hospital system to the detention center. Zach, separately charged with assault, robbery, and threatening an officer, is processed in a different facility. He had walked out of prison and walked straight back in within weeks. The irony appears entirely lost on him. The biological father of the boys he claimed he wanted to protect is now in a cell, and Felix and Leo are wards of the state. Kyle, for his part, does not look back. He withdraws every yuan he is legally entitled to recover and files the fraud case. With the efficiency of a man who has been waiting to do this for years without knowing it, his social media goes quiet for a week and then returns with a single post. A photo of his desk, a cup of tea, a caption that reads simply, "Starting over." The comment section fills immediately with support. Thousands of people who saw the video, who watched the hospital confrontation live-streamed by accident, who followed the arrest at the Villa Gate. You deserve better. Kyle, take your time. Ethan sees the post and feels something unexpected. Not satisfaction exactly, but a kind of quiet. The feeling of something being set right that had been crooked for a very long time. In his past life, Kyle spent 8 more years raising children that were never his, paying money he would never see again, loving a woman who was counting his assets while he slept. In this life, he finds out in time. That matters. That is real. And it had nothing to do with revenge. It was just the truth being released back into the world where it belonged. The weeks that follow are quiet. Preston handles the legal proceedings with the cold precision of someone who has never lost a case. He believed in. The court date is set. The evidence is overwhelming. The defense has nothing to work with. Every argument Jeanette's court-appointed lawyer attempts that the warning signs were insufficient, that the animals constituted an unreasonable hazard, that Ethan had deliberately set a trap, collapses against the surveillance footage. The camera does not lie. It shows the sign being pried off. It shows the lock being forced. It shows Tara's face lighting up as she walks into the storeroom. It shows every decision they made, freely and knowingly, inside a home they had no right to enter. The judge rules clearly and without ambiguity. Jeanette receives 6 years for criminal trespass, theft, and destruction of property of exceptional value. Tara receives 4 years. Her sentence reduced slightly due to her documented psychological state at the time of arrest, which the court considers a mitigating factor, though not an exonerating one. The civil damages are awarded in full, 3,600,000 yuan, to be repaid by both sisters jointly, with interest accruing from the date of the judgment. Given their current assets, all frozen, all assessed, Preston estimates repayment will take the better part of their working lives. They will be paying you back until they are old, he tells Ethan over the phone, almost admiringly. Ethan listens and says nothing for a moment. Then, good. He puts the phone down and stands at the window of his villa. The courtyard outside looks different now. The pond has been refilled, not with piranhas, but with a new set of koi, transferred back from his friend's property. 9 fish, moving slow and bright through the water, orange and white and gold, worth over 2 million yuan between them, and not one scale out of place. The study has been restocked too, every collectible returned to its shelf, every limited edition back in its original position. The room looks exactly as it did before, as though nothing happened. But Ethan knows differently. Something did happen, and it will not happen again. He thinks about the version of himself who died in a flower bed beside a busy road, bones shattered, unable to reach the hospital. He thinks about that man's last feeling, pure hatred, with no edges, no resolution, no justice. Just the bitter end of a life that was taken from him by people too greedy and too stupid to understand what they were doing. He does not feel that hatred now. What he feels is something quieter and in many ways more complete. He stood on the right side of every line. He gave fair warning. He documented everything. He let them walk through the door themselves. He did not lie, did not fabricate, did not threaten. He simply prepared, and then he waited, and then he let them show exactly who they were. And the world saw it clearly. The villa is his again, fully, cleanly, without question. The gate now has a new fingerprint lock, stronger than the last. The warning sign on the gate is freshly engraved, a second one added beside it for good measure. The cameras remain, every angle covered, every shadow watched. Not because he is afraid, but because a man who has died once understands the value of not being surprised again. Preston sends a final message the evening of the sentencing. 3 words, maximum, as requested. Ethan reads it and sets the phone face down on the desk. He opens a bottle of wine, a real one this time. From the private cellar, he had moved to a safe location before any of this began. He pours 1 glass, sits in his study, and looks at the shelves around him. Every figure in its place, every series intact. In his past life, he had looked at these shelves and felt pride. In his next life, he looked at their absence and felt grief so sharp it was almost physical. Now he looks at them and feels something else entirely. Clarity. He knows exactly what he values and exactly what he will do to protect it. Not with anger, not with impulsiveness, with precision, with patience, with the calm certainty of a man who has already seen how the story ends when you act in a panic. He takes a slow sip of wine and listens to the silence of the house. No footsteps, no voices demanding more from the kitchen. No sound of children tearing through rooms that do not belong to them. Just the low hum of the smart home system and the faint sound of water moving in the courtyard below. The koi, making their slow circles in the dark, alive, unhurt, right where they belong. He thinks about Tara, wherever she is in the psychiatric system tonight. Whether she is still seeing spiders when she closes her eyes. Whether she understands yet why all of this happened. He suspects she does not. People like Tara rarely do. They go through the world convinced that other people's things are simply waiting to become theirs. That softness is weakness and boldness is strategy. That there is always a way to take without consequence. They do not learn from loss. They learn from walls. And Tara has finally met hers. Jana is harder, smarter in the shallow way that makes people think they are untouchable. She ran the same scheme for 8 years and walked away with $5 million in a house and a car, and 2 children whose paternity she had buried like evidence. She thought she was good at this. She was not good enough. She forgot that the man she was trying to outsmart had already lived through her exact plan once before, and the second time, he was ready. Ethan finishes his wine and rinses the glass in the kitchen. He walks through the villa slowly, room by room, the way you walk through a place you want to remember. The living room, where Tara had settled into his sofa and laughed at her good luck. The bathroom, where she had spent a night on the floor paying for rotten food she had chosen to eat. The bedroom doorway, which she had sworn never to cross again. The study, restored. The shelves full. The back courtyard, where a turtle had made one very clear argument about the cost of uninvited guests. And the front, where the koi moves silently beneath the surface of clear water. He steps outside and stands by the pond for a long moment. The night is cold. The city hums distantly. The fish do not notice him. He thinks about second chances. Not the poetic kind. The practical kind. He came back with a memory no one else had in a rage that could have eaten him alive. If he had let it, he did not let it. He used it instead, precisely, methodically, without cruelty beyond what the situation called for. He did not destroy Tara and John out of hatred. He let them destroy themselves out of greed. There is a difference, and the difference matters to him. He could have done worse. He could have done less. He chose the path where the law did the work, where the cameras did the talking, where the evidence stood on its own without him needing to touch it. He chose the path where he walks away clean. And he did. He walks back inside, closes the door behind him, and locks it with a new code only he knows. The villa settles around him, warm and quiet and entirely his. No more phantom footsteps, no more voices that do not belong here. Just the house, and the man who built everything in it with years of discipline and patience. The koi are safe, the shelves are full, the cameras are watching, the attorney is working, the courts have ruled, the cells are occupied. Everything is exactly where it belongs. In the weeks that follow, Ethan does not speak publicly about the case. He does not do interviews. He does not post updates. He lets Preston speak for him in every legal context. Online, his name trends for a while longer, the story picked up by larger outlets, rattled and dissected and argued over. Most people land where the evidence points them. Some do not. There are always some who do not. But their noise fades quickly against the footage, which does not fade. It is there permanently, a record of exactly what happened and exactly who chose to make it happen. Tara, released eventually from the psychiatric hold and transferred to serve her sentence, is said to have recovered enough to understand her situation clearly. Understanding your situation clearly. When your situation is a 4-year sentence with civil damages attached, is not a comfortable kind of clarity, but it is the kind she has now, and that is the kind Ethan intended for her. Jana, in the detention center, files 3 separate appeals through her court-appointed lawyer. All 3 are rejected. The evidence is to clean. The surveillance is to complete. The warning signs to plainly documented. She spends the first months of her sentence demanding to speak to Kyle. Kyle does not come. Kyle does not call. Kyle is starting over, and starting over does not involve her anymore. Zach, characteristically, causes trouble in his facility within the first 2 weeks and earns himself additional time. Some people are simply incapable of learning in any direction. The boys, Felix and Leo, are placed with a state facility that the caseworker describes as warm and well-run. Ethan does not think about them often. He has made his peace with what happened there. They were not innocent of everything. Felix destroyed his home in another life. But they were children, and children absorb the shape of the world they are handed. He hopes the world they are handed now is a better shape. That is as far as his mercy extends, and he considers it enough. Spring comes to the city slowly, the way it always does. The courtyard fills with light earlier each morning. The koi grow more active, moving faster, rising toward the surface when Ethan appears by the pond. He feeds them in the early mornings before work, a habit he had before the breakup and reclaims now without ceremony. In his study, the shelves hold their figures in perfect stillness, each one in its place, each one exactly as he had cataloged it before any of this began. Some things, when you protect them well enough, remain untouched by everything that tries to reach them. Ethan had been given a second chance at his own life, and he had spent it the only way that made sense, not chasing revenge, building a wall so precise and so complete that no one could ever take from him again, without walking straight into the consequences they had built themselves. He had lived it once as a tragedy and returned to live it as something else entirely. A man who was killed by carelessness came back as something that carelessness cannot touch.